YouTube. Chrono Knight back here with another video. And for today, I finally did it, guys. I finally freaking did it. I got my first championship, first place finish at the Astral Ascent tournament. For those who don't know or may not have checked out a previous video, previous few videos, um, this is actually maybe more than a few videos back, actually. But anyway, I competed in the Astral Ascent tournament. This tournament is very special because the winner of this tournament gets half of what's called the Astral Crest. So the winner gets one half, which is the Astral Crest piece. Um, and there's two opportunities. So there's going to be an Astral Ascent too, where the winner of that tournament plays against me, and whoever wins in a best of five gets an automatic invite to the Chaos Galaxy Invitational at the end of the year. The Chaos Galaxy Invitational is one of the, it's probably the biggest tournament, honestly, in my opinion, or should I say the most competitive tournament because only the top players are invited to that. In order to get invited, you need to have a first place finish in an SBR, which I believe is stat based rankings. Oh, score based ranking tournament, or you need to, I think, get maybe top two in a tournament that's big enough, which I believe is like over 20 plus players or something like that. But anyway, this is my first championship officially in a tournament setting, and I'm just super excited to show you guys, how everything went. Um, this was in the previous format, so not the current format. So as of August and July, it was the format right before that where Blue Flames were still available. So without further ado, let's kind of hop in. All right, so here's the Astral Ascent deck breakdown. As you can see, Zone Control here was the by far the most popular deck. Um, Zone Control was a deck that started to pop up on the radar a couple of weeks prior to the tournament, and I really saw it gaining popularity, and I knew that that was a deck that I really had to prepare for. The idea of the deck is to use creatures such as Tribite, Guster, and Great Serpent of the Falls to control your zones, get an overwhelming advantage, and then, just kind of destroy you over time. And the sneaky part about this deck, too, is it also runs the Blue Flame package. So while you're dealing with a Tribite blocking your zones, Guster destroying your zones completely, and then Great Serpent on the Falls negating Tribite after it comes onto your side of the field. So now it like operates like a slush infestation. So now that zone is permanently blocked because Tribite's ability is canceled. Then it becomes like very overwhelming. And then next thing you know, you have a Jakra shuffling your creatures away and hitting you for 4 points. So I knew that this was a very formidable deck that I wanted to keep an eye on. Outside of that, Blue Flames, I was one of the Blue Flame players, of course. There's another player who played Blue Flames. Palladium Midrange saw two players, one Tech Live representative. Shout out my boy Harry Knight. Gadgets popped up, which was a deck that was kind of off the radar, but was actually really strong. And this was a deck that I was expecting to perform a lot better, and I was a little bit afraid of. I think the only thing about the deck in general is that I think it could be a little bricky. And if you face someone who kind of plays a little bit aggressive or has a couple of outs, you can find yourself in an awkward position where you're kind of just stalling for time. And sometimes it doesn't work that way. But when this deck pops off, it like can really shut down a lot of decks. Like Firestorm Sorcery on the Baby Ozos, swinging into your creatures, and then destroying a card from your hand. So the whole gimmick of the deck is everything goes +1 until it gets boiled down into the point where you can't beat Enox at 500 health, and you can't beat Omnius. So Omnius is also squoze into the deck as well, and it could just be very oppressive if you don't handle it the right way. I didn't get a chance to play it because the player running it did not make top cut. But at one point, I definitely expected to run into it. So it was something I was respecting in my play testing. And then wrapping everything up, one Gaius mid range and then one Sindel pile. Um, as far as people who made top cut, Teklar mid range made top cut, which is really nice. Both blue flame players and both zone control players. So it's pretty kind of obvious the power level of the decks. Now, I think what was kind of surprising is I did expect Polician mid range to perform a little bit better. And as I stated before, I expected Gadget to slip into the top six as well. So this was a very, for lack of better words, a very chaotic tournament where it was kind of like not sure what was going to happen, and there was a lot of ups and downs. But yeah, I was just very happy to see a different distribution of decks because going into it, I thought there were only going to be like maybe three or four decks that showed up, but this was pretty cool to see. Also, by the way, if you guys like this style of graphic, I've been kind of playing around with things like this. I think this will look really, really cool. I intend to do a video breaking down the Galaxy Madness tournament that just wrapped up. And I got third place in that, by the way. As a brief spoiler, but I'll follow up with what my deck was for that in another video. Hit me with some likes and comments if that's something that you'll look forward to seeing. Um, and in that tournament, there was, I believe, 26 or 27 players. So I think the graphic will look pretty cool broken down that way. But let's keep going. So as I stated, zone control is public enemy number one. Here's just a brief graphic just to kind of show you what the standard list was looking like. I believe my opponents pretty much copy and pasted this exact build, maybe with an exchange of one or two cards or maybe some variations in the sideboard. The deck lists have not been dropped as public yet. Um, but I'm about 99% sure that their deck looks pretty much like this, as this was the what was going around in a lot of discussions prior to the event. So as I said, I mean, this is two Pelfam was going on at the time of that format. Great Serb, you got double Jokra, double Guster, Logi to search Jokra or the tower, Blur to search Rowdy, Mold to snipe one of your activators, Noff with the Giles Planet can help you search Tribite and vice versa. Zamrazed to get you extra zones to put pressure. Orabov as a body, but also a sweet defensive tool, as it can come back from the grave and block one attack. And then also you have the Thorn and Glove combination. Um, and then in universe boundary to just add some consistency where you might want to put Jokra in the grave or get another planet type for Forces of Justice. And typical targets for Forces of Justice was either Tribite, Guster, or Thorn, and sometimes Logi if they were blocked the first time attempting to search. And then, of course, you got a really good staple package here, Galaxy Crash for Cell Sign Beast, Planetary Field, and AAA. This deck, when I first looked at the graphic, some people were kind of talking about it, and even when I was playing it against it in my testing, I was like, this is kind of nuts that this even works like this. And if you do not approach this deck the right way, you will get blown off of the field. But in the typical thing that I notice in decks like this is that it could be super, super bricky, or it's a lot of hoping for the right combination of cards at the right time. And so if you apply the right amount of pressure, you break the synergy of those combos. So, for example, if I, let's say they draw a hand and it's not the most optimal hand, and I have a two creature board, there's a lot of times where they're trying to think about, well, what creature do I put down to buy time? Because I don't want to drop my Thorn if I'm saving it to search for my Glove. Maybe I don't want to drop my Noff until I'm ready to search for my Tribite. Okay, is Zamra strong enough to kill what they have on the field? I usually want to save my Guster for like final game type of things where I could blow off their resource zone and go for game. Um, do I want to commit Logi too soon and they might have planetary field? So it's kind of an awkward thing. So as you can see, like once the pieces get going, it's extremely powerful. But if you catch them at a time where it's awkward for them to play certain types of creatures, you can really see how things can fall apart. And if you guys are interested, please let me know in the comments below. But what I can do is showcase my game one of grand finals that I think was a good example of how these things can come up, especially using the deck that I brought. All right. So let's take a quick look at my performance. In Swiss, I had 3 wins and 2 losses. In Top Cut, I did 4-0, which was able to get me into the 3 wins, 2 losses got me into Top Cut, and then a 4-0 sweep in Top Cut is how I was able to get the championship. So round one and round two, I started off very, very strong. Round one, I went 2-0 against the Sindel Pile. I think the Sindel Pile was just lacking a lot of consistency and power. It was just kind of like a little bit of a gimmicky version of Sindel, which was very low power compared to just a more streamlined, aggressive or tempo type of style. So that wasn't too difficult. I did 2-0 versus zone control. Like I said, I was very, very much respecting the deck. And also, I think a weakness of the deck, it is very, very easy to side against in a best of three. Because when I was playtesting, I was almost considering bringing it myself, but I just thought about how many sideboard cards like really hit this deck really hard, and I'll talk about that more when I get to my actual deck profile. Round three was a little bit of a bummer. I went 1-2 against Blue Flames. Now in this particular match, shout out to my opponent. You know who you are, and um, they had the right playstyle, and I had the wrong approach. Um, because you'll see later, but my build is not the most like streamlined, aggressive, spam Jokra type of playstyle, and theirs was. And I didn't respect that. Game one, I think I came out pretty good. I forgot which game I won, but it was either game one or game two. I came out really good. But I didn't specifically side for Blue Flames. I expected them kind of, but I put Monument to Creation in my main deck just to kind of bolster my strategy to kind of compensate for that. Round four, went against another zone control player, did really good. Round five, went against another zone control player. These are 3 different players, by the way. Um, and this came down to a game three that was really, really tough. Game one, I always knew was going to be difficult against this deck, against the right player. And I think he was the best player running the deck at the time. Um, Game one, I got completely washed. I was like, oh, yeah, yeah. I just knew that game one was going to be rough because he had the right approach against my deck after learning about it over time as the rounds went on. And then game two, sideboarded really, really well. And then game three, also sideboarded really, really well, but missed an opportunity where my opponent could go for lethal, and I didn't expect it. And Guster blew away my resource zone that I was planning to use for defense. And they were able to just hit me for like 5 or 7 points to like take the game away. And I think the final score is like 20-17. So I was looking to like lethal very soon. However, I just forgot the potential of them just blowing my zone away, and I didn't respect that. But anyway, fortunately, with that score, I had 3 wins and 2 losses, and I ended Swiss, I believe, in fourth place. And top six were eligible to go to Top Cut. So I made Top Cut. Round one, I played against Teklar Midrange. Teklar Midrange is really, really strong. I think they can really pop off and have a lot of economically valuable type of plays with Enderman's Telescope, um, safety cables, and then even Hideron bringing the creature back, Talakon reviving itself. So you can't take it lightly. However, I just have so much experience against the deck, and I already have some natural tools within my main deck that were able to combat it, and so I was able to, get the win there. Round two was against my zone control player again for round five. However, they decided to drop out of the tournament, so that counted as a disqualification, and it just forced me into the next game. I really would have loved to play them again, as I had learned so much from the first go around that I was ready to adapt. But here we are. And then losers finals, I played against the Blue Flames player that I lost to in round three, and was able to get the win. So this tournament was all about learning and adapting on the fly and making the right decisions. So the thing that made a crucial difference in this particular match, when I came down to the rematch, was that I realized I could not go toe for toe in a shootout. Like keep trading creatures, trading creatures, and trying to like break through for damage that way. I realized I had to build up, break their board, get damage. Pause, build up, break their board, get damage, and do that repeatedly until I won. So I had to control the pace of the game and then go for burst damage that way. And that set was like incredible. However, My recording cut out, I believe, half of game two and game three. But if you guys do want to see kind of like part of that play style, maybe I can turn that into a video somehow. But it was a very epic match, and shout out to them. That was one of the more fun rounds in my opinion. And then lastly, going into the grand finals, I played my zone control opponent from round two, and I won game one in a very convincing fashion. And they decided to scoop the rest of the set. Um, if I don't know if you guys have checked out Goldfish Gallant's replay stream, but he streamed the final match, and I probably will do an analysis video of that as well. Once again, let me know if you want to see that too. But it was really, really cool because I found a nice interaction with Pyronus, which I think was basically the MVP of my tournament. It was the card that I put a lot of chips on. I banked a lot on that card being a really good tech meta call, and it paid off in dividends throughout this whole tournament. So shout out to Pyronus, and I'll talk about the deck profile very shortly. But yeah, like I said, one game one, and then they were like, yeah, they're pretty much done, so they didn't want to play the next game. And as I stated before, the against zone control, game one is always the most difficult, but it progressively gets easier in game two and game three, and I'll show you guys why. All right, so let's go over to the deck profile. So as you can see here, I have 34 cards. I'll just scroll up and then yeah, just kind of do it this way for now so you can see how many copies of cards I have. There we go. First off, All Bay Commander, one of my favorite cards, probably my most favorite card actually. I just really like the artwork and what the card does. But I picked him because it was cheap with 7 stars compared to Shiozi and Lava Behemoth. And he was high enough to hit my high targets that I was expecting, which is anything over 430 health. 430 is a very tricky power level, and you always want to have something in your deck that can destroy it by battle instead of relying so much on like unique removal. As I did expect a couple Pally players, which did show up, and just zone control having Great Serpent at 430 health is something you have to respect regardless. So I would not change this card anyway. Next, I play one copy of Fireball Inari. I think Fireball Inari is something that you definitely could cut with a build like this. But what was really cool about it is that sometimes I wanted to avoid on death abilities. And so instead of killing the card, I wanted to shuffle it. However, I did also want a card that just, with the help of Zomato, could take out a lot of strong stuff. I was expecting gadgets. So I was expecting things like Enox. I was expecting things like Omnius. And so the cool thing is that Firebolt plus Zomato's power up puts it at 500 health. But the cool thing is, instead of trading 500 for 500, I would shuffle that creature back into the deck. So that was my thought process with Firebolt Inari. It didn't come up as much because I did not get to play against the Gadgets player, but I was definitely expecting them to make top cut. So this was something as a bit of a tech piece against them. However, it did come up, I believe, against Teklar midrange, where I was able to shuffle the lightning squads instead of killing it. So I didn't have to worry about losing a creature that way. And then I could keep putting pressure and still have a big body on board. I believe I was able to shuffle away another card. Maybe once against Jakra, it didn't come up as much, but it also is a nice interaction to shuffle Jakra because if they have access to their tower or their deck is getting really, really low, then you don't want the Jakra to already be killed and be able to free play in one turn. So it was helpful that way. One copy of Rookbat. I would not change this card. I think this is very, very useful. The 370 and by itself is already really nice, but then also the ability to go 470 with a Zomato power up means that Rokeback is a 5-star creature that can clear a lot of big stuff, right? So it saves me economically, and it also takes a lot of pressure off all big commanders. So if I'm low on stars, I still have a couple of answers within these three to take out things that are really big. Two copies of Jokra, one copy of Laji. This is very standard. As at the time, I believe Laji was limited to one copy, um, but it's useful at one copy. I mean, if you could run two, that's kind of cool. But I think it's fine. Like this package is really nice, where you get two Jokra and then Laji, pretty standard, along with the one copy of the Undying Blue Flame. Two copies of Scoria, two copies of Max Proud, both of which are very standard. If you get the chance to run this combo and you're playing Shias, always run this combo. There's no reason not to. Like, you get both of these in hand. That's two bodies and a +1 because you can draw with Scoria. Max Proud has respectable stats. Scoria has respectable stats. And with Zomato, you're killing quite a bit of stuff in the format. Two Guster was really nice. Now, the thing about this deck in general that I thought was really cool is that I took elements of the Shias Starvation build and the Shias Aggro build and put them together. So Shias Aggro wants to like put a lot of pressure, blow you off the field, and spam you with Jokra Blue Flame until you die. Shias Starvation wants to like control your zones and control your stars. And I put those two concepts together. So like I felt like Guster was very, very strong and helped me with a lot of answers, especially when I was going for lethal. Like a lot of times I would just blow away the resource zone and they wouldn't have any defense. And also the better combo is Time Flash Portal plus Guster. So if it's a very, very big creature or an annoying creature that I want to kill, I can Time Flash Portal it, Guster the zone underneath it. Now the creature is completely dead. This came up quite a bit in my Teklar mid range matchup where I was able to play around Hydron and play around Talakon. So I negated their ability with Time Flash Portal and then destroyed the zone underneath it so that it was completely killed and I didn't have to worry about it. And a lot of decks with Abomination Tomb being banned at the time were it was very difficult for them to get recursion. They were not able to bring stuff back from the grave. So if you were able to snipe a big creature like that, it was extremely impactful. One, so I wouldn't change Guster. Guster is very big. One copy of Mole. If you get the chance to play it, I think it's good to play. Very generic card. Where just you get a chance to potentially snipe an activator or force out an activator that they don't want to use right now, and it's kind of like no reason why not to play it. And it's super strong, specifically in Shias with Zomato powering it up and getting you more potential hits or targets. Next up, arguably the MVP, Pyronist. Ability says once per turn, you can return one killed 5-star or lower Shias creature to the top of your galaxy, except Pyronist. Now, what is the 5-star Shias creature that we spent a lot of time talking about? This guy right here. Exactly. And this package was splashed into a lot of decks. All of the zone control players have the package. My Shias opponent obviously has the package as well. And there are even other decks that experiment with putting this combination of cards together when it was legal. By the way, at the time of this video, these cards are banned now, but just wanted to give you a backtrack on how this went. But yeah, I checked with judges and they were like, yeah, well, it says return one killed. It doesn't say return your killed. So I was like, all right, cool. Well, when I get into this mirror match, like I'm gonna kill their Jokra and then I'm going to use my Pyronist to steal the Jokra. With the idea being that when Jokra goes to the top of my galaxy and I draw it, I just will never play it again. And so that's one Jokra that they'll never have. Ideally, you do it twice and they'll never have their full blue flame combo ever again. So that was extremely strong. But even outside of that, it was very impactful in games where I wanted to kind of slow down the pace of the game because it has 200 health. And a lot of times my targets was Scoria and Mag Sprout. There were so many games, and even Mold was nice to bring back. There were so many games where it just felt like I had twice as many creatures as my opponent did because of this card. I'm trading into their board, especially when they're playing like low health stuff. And then next thing you know, I'm like, all right, let's put Scoria back on the deck. And if it sits for another turn, all right, I'll put Max Proud back on the deck. So now I get this whole combo again, and I'm just consistently drawing. And so this allowed me to draw into my non-engine, which is all of these tech cards down here, um, and also get closer to other engine pieces that I wanted. And so it was just a really good card that was really cool, and it fit the balance of this mid-range style approach to the deck. Next up, we have Zamorzed. Zamorzed, I think, was just basically a staple the whole tournament. You just want to get your zones for cheap, and this was the best card to do it. Zone Battle also counts as a zone as well, helping you get battle zones. So there's a lot of games. I had 3 battle zones and 3 creature zones, and a lot of decks cannot keep up with that, especially with the high hitting power of the Shias deck. And then one copy of Mad Crab. I thought Mad Crab was pretty interesting. This slot was Obsidian Blob. but I thought the extra 90 power for the sake of 1 star was extremely worth it. And then the argument was that, oh, Obsidian Blob is 1 star and it's a 10 health, so you can bring it back with Undying Blue Flame. But I always felt like if I'm bringing back Obsidian Blob with the Undying Blue Flame, that something went wrong. Like something did not go according to plan. So Crab was definitely the better choice in my opinion, and it paid off in dividends because even the ability, the potential to go 290 with a swing of this cheap was very, very useful. And a lot of times he came up clutch in that way. Star Mosaic. Star Mosaic was extremely powerful. One of the biggest problems with Shias in general is that star economy, right? You're playing a lot of 4 stars, you're playing some fives, some sevens. A lot of stuff is cost play. The only free play usually is Mag Sprout. And so there's times where you get really, really low in stars. And I thought what was really cool about this card is that sometimes I would bait my opponent into thinking I don't have a lot of plays because stars is public knowledge, right? So they're looking at my stars and they're like, oh, he has less than 5 stars. Like, it's not much he can really do. Or let's say I go down to 0 and they're thinking, like, okay, next turn he's only going to have 4 stars. So it's no way he can beat over this big creature. And then next thing you know, I'm dropping down Star Mosaic and then I'm jumping to like 12, 13, 14 stars because I have 7 zones on top of the 4 stars that I'm going to gain for turn, right? So it's just super, super cool. Galaxy Crash is obviously a staple. You just want to blow up stuff. It's super powerful. Um, Crow Comet was an interesting tech piece. Like I said, I really wanted to respect Blue Flames this tournament. So this combined with Erratic Void was the idea, where they play the tower, Erratic Void stops the free play, and then on my next turn I snipe the tower. And this actually came up in my my round two match against Zone Control. Um, this completely caught my opponent off guard. Like I stopped the tower and I sniped the tower, and then it was over. The cool thing is it also has some synergy with like hitting for sale sign, hitting Talankant's helm, hitting any annoying permanent resources that might come up in a tournament fashion. So for the sake of 1 slot, it was completely worth it. We already talked about Time Flash Portal. As I said, I was expecting a lot of Blue Flame Mirrors or just decks that do have draw power. And so Monument to Creation was extremely useful this whole tournament. Like just the potential at any point to filter through my deck by 2 more cards was extremely powerful, and it just made the deck really stick together. 1 copy of Firewall. Sometimes you want 2 copies of Firewall, but I, I think there are opportunities where you could just kind of play around it, should I say. Like, yes, they're going to kill your creatures, but normally if you're playing the deck right, you're trading efficiently and you're getting the better trades and you're getting more damage output. Um, but a lot of times you do want to have like Scoria plus Max Sprout or something, and then you firewall it, and then now you get another opportunity to draw another card. So that was the main focal point. Black Hole Blocker, as I said, there are opportunities for me to go 3 creature wide. So Black Hole Blocker was just cool to just give me extra defense. And it came up, I would never change this card. Right? This card is one of my favorite tech cards ever, to stop Galaxy Crash and to stop Beast of the Black Hole. Erratic Void, outside of the Blue Flame stuff, it hit a lot of other targets very generically, such as like Scardians, Polysium, Free Play, um, even Super Flooper, things like that, where they're trying to free play a big creature. Erratic Void comes up, and then Field, Beast, and AAA to wrap everything up. All right, as those are just staples. And then lastly is going to my sideboard. This sideboard package was extremely powerful. I would not change a thing about this. I had a last minute decision to do 1 scoring instead of 2 scoring. In a lot of my playtesting and a lot of conversations with different people, I just was noticing that Shape Knights was not really that strong anymore, and I felt like I would get a lot more respect, or not respect. I was better off respecting Polysium more. So I was gonna go 1 Shockwave and 2 scoring, but I decided to go 2 Shockwave and 1 scoring, and that was extremely helpful. And another thing that clicked in my head is I was like, oh, even when I'm not playing Pally, I'm playing Zone Control, and Great Serpent is their main boss monster. So like, why not have 2 Shockwave 8 potential there as well? 1 Flooper is great. I think at the time of recording this, it was limited. If not, I just felt like I wasn't going to see a lot of Gaios, and that I felt like my Gaios matchup was already okay enough. where one flooper was just going to tip the scales in my favor. Two abandonment, which I would not change at all because a lot of decks were running multi-planet type strategies. You get so much coverage with this one card, and I used it in every zone control matchup that I played. As far as my side patterns, against zone control, I sided in all five of these. Well, most of the time it's only four, but you can actually side in all five because you can respect Tribite, which I showed you guys in that graphic earlier. Tribite you can take right off the field with Flooper when it gets to your side of the field. So you get a body, and also it helps you not get your zones clogged up. Abandonment because the deck runs so many multi planets, and then Shockwave 8 for what I just said about Cirque. But yeah, I guess I'll wrap it up here. But yeah, this is Chrono Knight signing out. Got my first championship. Please hit me with some likes, emojis, comments, whatever. Let me know what you guys want to see on the next one. But super excited. I'm looking forward to the next tournament. Chrono Knight signing out. Catch you guys on the next one.